Recently, Ricoh launched a new version of their GR3 camera called the GR3 HDF. In this video, I want to share with you why I'm not going to buy it and why I'm sticking with the original GR3 that I've had for about 4 years. If you're thinking of buying a GR3 HDF, you should probably listen to this. Just about everything I'm going to say in this video is applicable to the GR3, the GR3X, and the GR3 HDF. They're all identical except for the focal length difference and the HDF filter. Oh wait, the HDF version actually has some special paint on their shutter release that looks different in different light. So when I travel, I take way too much stuff with me. I take camera bodies, lenses, tripods, selfie sticks, filters, bag to store it all in, and of course a different bag to carry it in, maybe even two of them. Now that's fine if I'm out doing photography or videos specifically for that purpose. But if I'm out on vacation, say I'm off with the family at the beach or on a mini break somewhere, they don't want to be waiting around while I pull out all my gear, mess around with it, and eventually press the shutter button. They get quite bored quite quickly. On top of that, it also means I reveal in front of them just how much camera gear I own, which may not be a good thing because they may not know about it all. So for vacations, I really wanted to have something that was more minimalist without compromising on image quality at all. I tried some compacts. I tried the Canon G9X Mark II, the Sony ZV-1, the Canon G1X, even the original Canon EOS M, but that was quite a while ago now. All of them felt compromised in one way or another. I did take a look at the Fujifilm X100V, which is now R2 version 6. That camera is just stunning to look at and to use, but I find it's too large and heavy for what I wanted, and at that size and weight, I might as well just use my old Sony a6000 or a similar camera to that with a 20mm f2.8 lens on it and be done. I saw the Ricoh GR3 and immediately discounted it. I didn't know that Ricoh even did cameras still. I thought they were part of Pentax. It's actually the other way around. But then I started looking at the spec sheet of it. This is a 24 megapixel APS-C size sensor. It's actually a Sony sensor as well, and I kind of like those Sony sensors. It has a 3-axis sensor shift stabilization, and it has a hybrid phase detection, contrast detection, autofocus system, which means it's really quick and pretty accurate at picking out the things you want to focus on. It also has a built-in ND filter, which I find extremely useful. The lens is an 18.3mm f2.8 lens. It's fixed focal length. That's the equivalent of around a 28mm full-frame lens. It's super sharp with excellent contrast. The styling is very low-key and minimalist. There's no fancy graphics on here, not even the word Ricoh on the front, just an understated GR logo. The touchscreen on the back is excellent. It's clear, bright, and very swipeable too. The whole camera feels well built and feels very good in my hand. All the controls are within easy reach. And there's only one port on it, and that's a USB-C port. So having looked at the spec sheet, I decided to give it a go and try it. So I bought the Ricoh GR3 and I started taking it with me on trips. I would slip it into my camera bag along with everything else, which meant that I actually didn't use it at all, ever, for quite some time. You see, the thing was, I think I was just frightened of having just this one small camera with a fixed focal length, so I just found I was still packing all of my gear and just taking this along just in case, and then not actually using it at all. But then I took it on a work trip and I found myself in Antwerp in Belgium, which is a beautiful city. I actually lived near Antwerp for 4 or 5 years back in the past and love that city. And I had some time one morning to go out and just shoot some photographs. So I went out, found a Starbucks, and started shooting a lot. I took a lot of pictures that day and I really enjoyed taking the camera out. I didn't feel like a tourist. I didn't feel like a photographer. So the pictures I could take, even though I was effectively taking snapshots, every one of them had the potential to be a total banger. It really is extremely easy to use. You press the power button and it powers up instantly. It's already there in less than a second. And when you shut it off, it tells you immediately how many shots you've taken that day. Now, it can also tell you how many pictures you've taken in total on what your firmware is, but honestly, I don't need to see that every time I use my camera. But I do like the fact that it tells me how many photographs I've taken today. It's kind of like it's encouraging you to take more. But as I describe it to you, I don't really see the point of it, but I do like it. I think it's kind of cool. I grew to like using the Ricoh. And the more I used it, the more I had confidence that I didn't actually need to take anything else with me on those sorts of trips. If I was going to be walking around a city, exploring a place for the first time, all I needed was this. I like shooting with it, and I also found I liked a large percentage of the shots that I took with it as well. So now whenever I go anywhere, like a new city or maybe even a familiar one, but usually it's a new place for me, I just keep shooting. If it catches my eye, I take a photograph of it. I just find this so much quicker and easier because what I'd normally do is I will stop, I will compose, I will check my settings, I'll probably recompose because that's what I do. I'll check the histogram perhaps, and then I'll take 2 or 3 shots just in case. With this one, I just pick it up, press the button, fire, and turn it off again. I do tend to set this camera up so I don't have to mess around with settings as well. So typically I'm at 125th of a second or maybe 160th of a second. I'm at f4 or f2.8. I'm always on auto ISO with the range limited to between 100 and 6400 ISO. You can do that on this camera. And then the function button on the back here, I've got that set to either ND filter on and off or crop mode. And that really depends on where I am. If I'm really stuck with a 28mm focal length, I can hit that crop button and punch into 35mm or 50mm, and it will actually rotate between the 3 as you keep pressing the button. You obviously lose some resolution when you do that, but I really use it, so I'm okay with it. I don't really use it for intentional street photography of people. There might be people in the photos that become the subject matter, but they're not the focus when I actually take the shot. And now let's talk about the latest launch, the GR3 HDF from Ricoh, and why I'm not going to buy it. My YouTube feed has been filled with videos of the GR3 HDF these past few weeks, probably just like yours has. So this is basically the same camera again, but it has a high diffusion filter to soften light points in an image. Otherwise, it's identical to the GR3 and also the GR3X, because there's an HDF version of that as well. They're identical except one thing. In order to put that HDF filter in, they've taken the ND filter, the neutral density filter, out. Now, I use that ND filter quite a bit. I get the whole HDF thing. It's appearing everywhere now. You can do the effect in Lightroom, but there's something about being able to do these sorts of things in camera, so filters are still popular. We have black mist filters, we have high diffusion filters, and so on. There is another way, though, that you can also achieve the HDF equivalent effect, and that's using a filter on the camera. I said earlier on that I have a filter system for this camera, and I do. It's by Nisi. I actually have 2, and I'll explain why in a minute. The one that I use a fair bit has got this here. This is a push-on filter that goes onto the lens at the front of the camera. And then you've got square filters or rectangular filters that then just slot into this. That's pretty useful, and that's the one I tend to carry and use a lot, partly because the adapter that goes on the camera fits in this handy-dandy little case. The other system that I've got requires a separate metal filter adapter that goes on the front of the camera. So that's that filter adapter on the front of the lens, and it stays out the way of the lens. This now means you can put any 49mm filter you like onto the front of this camera and it won't interfere with the lens at all. Then get yourself a 49mm black mist filter or high diffusion filter. This one actually is a black filter. This is a black mist filter, 1/4 power. And that then just screws onto the front of this. And there we go. I've got high diffusion, or black mist in this case, filter on the front of my Ricoh GR3. That filter was $19. I'll put a link down below. And this filter holder, even though it comes as part of a Nisi kit, is also available separately, and that's like 17 bucks, something like that. So my recommendation is don't buy the HDF version of the GR3. Actually, buy the original version of the GR3 instead. Then you've got an ND filter built in that you're going to use much more frequently than an HDF filter. There is quite a little bit of a fashion accessory at the moment, if I'm honest about it. It also allows you to punch in and zoom in if you need to get to that 40mm range of the GR3X. So there you have it. That's why I think you should buy the original GR3 from Ricoh and none of the other models also. Plus, it's the cheapest one that's in the range. It's not quite as cheap as it was when I bought it. I bought it at $8.99. But you know, everything's gone up since COVID, hasn't it? Unfortunately, so it is a little bit more expensive now. So hopefully saved you some money. Get the GR3, don't get the HDF version. If you really want an HDF filter, get a Nisi filter holder and get a filter that goes with it. And then if you're doing that, you might as well get a whole bunch of filters too, because why not? My name is Julian. If I can run with it, bike with it, hike with it, or film with it, I'll make videos and put them here on YouTube. If that's of interest to you, please do consider subscribing to the channel. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps the channel immensely. As always, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon.